And in fact, really, the sort of real title should be What Happens When Things Go Wrong and What Lessons Can You Learn About Drafting Documentation from Cases that have been before the courts. Drafting and looking at drafting is what we as lawyers actually do. But one person's clarity is another person's hell in a handbasket. And so I thought it was worth having a look at how we should be advising our clients on, obviously, the other idiot's drafting. It's never our own drafting that goes wrong, is it? And what lessons we can actually pick out of the cases that we're going to be looking at around the principles behind the court's approach to inform how we draft in future to avoid the problems arising in the first place. The known facts or circumstances, this is the fourth test that Lord Hoffman and Lord Neuberger put forward. So what does that actually mean? The facts and circumstances known or that ought to have been known to the parties at the time of the drafting. I think it breaks down into sort of three main areas: the general background, the state of the law, which is decided cases, conventions and principles, and indeed statute law. So stuff that we as lawyers should know, to put not too fine a point on it, and potentially the standing of the parties. Because there are cases which say that, well, actually the parties knew X about each other, and so therefore. So we'll look at that as well. Now, what if interpretation doesn't work? Well, I mentioned right at the outset, interpretation might not work, and there are other methods of what I've called interpretation here. But with the exception of rectification, it can be very useful to argue rectification versus interpretation. It's going to be difficult to persuade the court to imply a term into a contract if you didn't put it in, even if you meant to put it in, unless you can show rectification, a mutual mistake or a unilateral mistake, there's evidence you meant to put it in. I don't think the courts are going to very often imply a term in. But again, more likely where the person asking for the implication is non-professional.